It is time to do an update on some stocks that I've been watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and do you know what the most opinionated tree is? Oh, pine. Speaking of opining, it is time for me to give my commentary on the stocks that I've been watching. So I have Enphase, Tesla, and Google, and I think each one of those is very interesting to talk about right now, especially because today is a big day with the inflation report coming out. As a matter of fact, it should be out by the time that we see this. So we'll see how it impacts the stocks and if it goes the way that I think it does based on what we see from the CPI and in light of what we have coming out from the Fed tomorrow. In this video, I'll be telling you about where you can see my buys and sells. I'll tell you about my options course and about the Moomoo offer. In the meantime, I do want to get right into the charts. So we're actually going to kick things off with Enphase. There we go. So I got Enphase up here on the screen for you, and let me zoom in and I'll adjust some of these lines that we have here. Resistance 112, support at 100, and you can actually see this last candle that we have here is right in between the 50-day moving averages. We have the 50-day simple moving average that is clocking in at 100.70, and then we have the 50-day EMA, the exponential moving average, which is clocking in at 103.58, and the high from yesterday, or I should say the closing price yesterday, was 103.55. So we fell 3 cents in between that. So we're going to have to watch that. In the pre-market hours, we're currently sitting at 103.20, and right now I think is that calm before the storm moment. You guys can let me know in the comments if you're watching this after the CPI comes out. So if the CPI is favorable for us, if inflation continues its downward trend, I think that we're going to see Enphase and other solar stocks like it absolutely take off. So this is one that I think is a play based on what we could see from the inflation reports coming out, and also from the Fed meeting could also be another catalyst for us. So I think today and tomorrow are really big days for solar stocks, and Enphase is one of my favorite ones that's out there. This white line is that long-term downward trend. If you haven't watched my other video, go ahead and watch that one. And then these price targets that I have depend on how long of a sustained rally we get in the markets, assuming that what we get is a dovish Fed and good inflation reports that are out there. By the way, I will put out my video on the summary of economic projections and my commentary on that later today. That is my afternoon video. So be watching for that, because we'll talk about what the Fed saw for the end of 2023 and how we're actually positioned and how they can play into 2024 and how I think it's going to impact the markets. So be on the lookout for that one. So back to the charts here for Enphase as we have it on here. It's crucial that we keep this, well, preferable, I should say, that we keep the support at 100. Crucial that we keep the support of this trend line right here, that it stays support and doesn't become resistance for us. Should we break down through this, should inflation reports and the Fed go the other way and the market sells off and solar stocks sell off, we can fall down through here and we can retest these previous lows all the way down to about $75 per share. So should we break down through support, should things not go the way that I expect, I can change my direction and I can go down with this rather than up with this. But I do expect in the near term that this is going to pop up. I think it should absolutely be on your watch list. So let's go to Tesla. Tesla's actually holding its own, still consolidating, trading sideways for us all the way going back to 14th of November and having a little bit of movement, a little bit of volatility, and we still haven't decided on the direction. We closed yesterday. Closing price was just under $240 per share, and the pre-market today were just over $240 per share as of the recording of this video. And we are below this trend line that I have here at the top of the bearish channel that we have, and we are above the moving averages, the 50, EMA, and SMA, both of which the average of the two, I should say, is right around 235. So I have that support there at 235, still believe it, and we have this trend line here, this minor one falling through that we also want to stay above, which, mind you, is coming into confluence with the 50-period simple moving averages. So be on the lookout for that. The momentum, somewhat bullish, but mostly sideways. You can see that consolidation. There's not a lot of momentum going into the stock right now, bullish or bearish, and that's why we're kind of tending around that 50 line. However, this is one that, should we get that good news from inflation and from the Fed, I think this is also going to break out of that bearish channel, and I think that we're going to go right past the 250 onto the 260 mark. As a matter of fact, let me change the level of zoom. We'll go this way a little bit. There we go. That should clean up those numbers for you. And so 260, I think, is highly believable. And if the market really does run, we have 268. And after that, the sky's the limit. So we want to be on the lookout for that. We'll reevaluate should we pop up above that. Now, mind you, if we fall down through the supports that we have here, we have room all the way down to about 225, which is where this 200-day SMA is that we have on here. Be looking at the RSI for the indicator for direction for that. And if we go out to the weekly chart on this and look at the RSI, once again, we're right around that 50 line. Like we have been there for so long. We're just tending to that. So we were declining and then inclining as we have right here for the RSI, really narrowing down on this price action. So Tesla, I think, is going to be very interesting to watch over the next several days. And like I said, good news for the markets, good news for inflation, good news from the Fed. This thing pops out of the bearish channel, and that's my belief on this, and that's the way that I'm playing it. So for Tesla, keep an eye on that. And if we do fall down through support, it's down to 225. If we break down through that, then I think that we have room all the way down to that 200 mark again, because the market's probably in a bad way. So just be on the lookout for that. Be aware. So Google actually broke its support that we had for this trend line that was right here from the inverse head and shoulders that we were looking at. So this is a bullish pattern that we have on here. Big tech has been taking it rough the past few days. Google being big tech, even though it closed up above the support, it even tagged the 140 line, which is where we have that support and resistance. The resistance for the neckline for this. This is one that can move up to 150, but it's got to get back up above there. So we actually need to see where it settles. It is below the 50-day SMA and EMA. So for right now, and in the pre-market hours, by the way, we're all the way down to 133.75. So we want to make sure that we don't break down below that 130 mark, because that's something that can absolutely cancel what we have going on with the inverse head and shoulders. So be aware that should we break that 130, we have room down to about this 200-day at about that 122, 123 level. So just be on the lookout for that one. So for Google, like I said, big tech right now has been selling. I don't think that this follows the same path that we saw for Tesla and for Enphase. We want to find out where exactly big tech is going to sell off to. I don't think it's going to have the big hard downward sell unless the rest of the market goes with it. I think this is one that there's a little bit of correcting going on and repositioning going on, and people cashing in their profits and then moving into other weaker areas of the market. And so that's why I also talked about, here's a bonus for you, IWM, I think is a great play that is going to pay off very well for us if I'm right about the Fed and if I'm right about inflation. So be on the lookout for that as well. I'm going to take just a quick moment to tell you about the Patreon and where you can see my buys and sells at the Discord that's available through the Patreon. And then also my options course is available in the Patreon as well, which comes along with your Patreon subscription. And then moving from there into Moomoo, that link also down in the description for you. 5.1% APY on your unused cash and up to 15 free stocks based on your deposit level. So go ahead and check those things out. All right, let me bring that down for a moment and I'll summarize this thing. If inflation goes well, if I'm right about that, then I think that that's going to be great for solar. I think it's going to be great for Tesla. Big tech, I think, is also going to benefit from it as well. But people are hedge funds, institutions, and some retail investors are also looking for where to find better values around the market. And that's where I think Russell 2000 comes in. And that's why I tossed in the bonus of IWM for anybody who's stuck around this long in the video. I think that is one that can absolutely outperform what we see in the Qs and SPY, which, by the way, are near their all-time highs, which I think can most definitely happen here in December or into January. So be on the lookout for that. It does require that we get good news from the economic reports, especially inflation reports. Some of the job reports that we have and also news from the Fed is also going to be highly impactful for that. So be on the lookout for those things. So Google, we'll see if it's one that continues to sell off and we break down past that 130 level, because if it does, like I said, that can cancel that inverse head and shoulders pattern that we have, and then we continue to sell off from there down to about 123 should we break 130. Should we break up above 140, I think that we have room to at least 150, so be on the lookout for that as well. So that's what I have for you guys in this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'll be back this afternoon with the summary of economic projections commentary and also an update on what we see inflation for the CPI and talk about that going forward in my next video. Thanks guys for watching. Check out the links down in the description. Join me in the community over at the Patreon, and also don't forget about your free stocks and your 5.1% APY through Moomoo. Those links down in the description. Thanks for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.